Woke around 6 o'clock, jumped off the bed and hit my knees. I had to give the Lord His praise for letting me wake up today.
Jumped in the ride and hit the spot. Say what's up to all the G's. Today just might be the day. Our games might change the way.
Continue rolling down the block, get pulled over by the police. I tell you no, I'm not afraid. I know I'm protected by grace.
I had to come to a stop with all the drama in the street. Make me feel like I'm not safe. Well, all I can do is pray and keep your hope and keep your faith. You know we going back one day, but for now I'm gonna celebrate, 'cause He made me in His image.
And now it's back to 6 o'clock, and I ain't even had no sleep. But today was a lovely day. It's the love that you create. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Woke around 6 o'clock, jumped off the bed and hit my knees. I had to give the Lord His praise for letting me wake up today.
Jumped in the ride and hit the spot. Say what's up to all the G's. Today just might be the day. Our games might change the way.
Continue rolling down the block, get pulled over by the police. I tell you no, I'm not afraid. I know I'm protected by grace.
I had to come to a stop with all the drama in the street. Make me feel like I'm not safe. Well, all I can do is pray and keep your hope and keep your faith. You know we going back one day, but for now I'm gonna celebrate, 'cause He made me in His image.
And now it's back to 6 o'clock, and I ain't even had no sleep. But today was a lovely day. It's the love that you create. From 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the one and only Elohim of Israel. Shalom and blessings to all my brothers and sisters, my kinsmen according to the flesh who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, the service of Elohim, and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning the flesh our Mashiach came, who is over all Elohim blessed. Hope all is good and well. Want to welcome everybody to this fellowship. I guess before I start, y'all let me know how I sound in the chat. I always got to check my sound before I start. You know, like I mentioned before, I'm working on a different microphone, so I have to check to make sure my sound is good each time. For some reason, when I got this microphone, I bought it for another purpose, not for streaming, you know, but it turns out I'm using it for that purpose now. It was somewhat of an experimental mic for that purpose, and what I bought it for didn't really turn out to be useful for that. You know, it is, but not the way I wanted it. But I've got it anyway for the second purpose of it being a streaming mic. So I'm just trying to make sure this is good. I got some ones. All right, I appreciate that. Pretty clear. Sounding pretty good. Okay, cool. Thank y'all for that. I want to also let everybody know I'm getting over a little cough this past week. So just bear with me with that. As we get through this, I'll just try to mute out if I need to let something out. But in any case, I want to thank y'all for your chiming in. Hopefully we get a few more brothers to chime in. Tonight's topic, the downfall of the men of Judah. All right, this is just really one of those messages I like to touch on every once in a while, you know, just to sort of, you know, chime in with the brothers and just kind of deal with the brothers, you know what I mean? This is going to be me directing this toward the brothers. However, some of what I'm going to be talking about will pertain to the sisters as well, because when it comes to the brothers and the sisters, the Bible tells us the man is not without the woman and the woman is not without the man. When you look at our downfalls as men and women, it mostly revolves around each other and the things that we do because of each other. And so one way or the other, when you're dealing with this issue, you're dealing with both, even though you singling one out. It's kind of like when you deal with siblings that's fighting with each other. And this is sort of a microscopic example. When you separate the two, all right, you might listen to both sides' grievances, but ultimately you hold them both accountable. However, both sides need to be pointed out, what your issues are. The women need to hear what their issues are. The men need to hear what their issues are. Men and women need to be accountable for what our issues are, for what our actions are. What is our contribution to the whole or the totality of our people? What have we contributed, be it positive or negative? When I talk about this kind of stuff, I don't like to exclude myself, because when the Most High deals with us, he deals with us as a whole. Even though we deal with our own personal issues, we all contribute by means of what we do to the overall plight of who we are ultimately. And I think when we understand that, that is one of the key things that's going to put us where we need to be, even in this captivity. We waiting on the Most High to deliver us, for us to come together. And scriptures bear witness that we're going to come together before the Most High brings us out. When you read Jubilees, for instance, and I didn't have this pulled up, it talks about a time when Israel was united, brother loving brother, and everybody looked out for one another's well-being. And that was while our people were in Egypt. If you read Jubilees, I think it's the 49th chapter, it talks about how Israel during that time, when our people were growing into a nation. And how ironic is that during that time, when our people was growing into a nation, the mindset that they had toward one another. And here we are today, being birthed back into a nation. And even though you see the confusion and the different things, what's going to be the end result of that? What is the hope of our people? Are we hoping for that? All of these things are important to the overall plight of who we are. And so just like this issue, you know what I mean? It's just a part of a whole. The way we will and deal as men of Judah, it contributes to the plight of our people. What we do, the decisions we make, how we choose the things we do, are we wise about what we do? All these things contribute not only to our own personal lives, but to our overall plight as a people. And so in dealing with this, I want to come from it with that mindset. When we talk about the sisters, we point out things, but then we segue it into showing that this is just a part of a whole. This is something that needs to be addressed. If we're going to move forward as a people, these things have to be addressed. They got to be talked about. I can honestly say I could sit back and not care one way or the other, because not everybody has these issues. However, when I see these issues, it irks me because these are my people. And, you know, what good is it if, you know, and this goes for anybody, what good is it if you feel like you don't have to deal with certain issues, but yet all your people are going through it and dealing with it, you know? So these things have to be dealt with. The scriptures talks about us being in the land of our captivity and calling our sins to mind. And as men, this is one of the things that, you know, we have to call to mind before we come close to the Most High. You know, the things we deal with as men, the issues we deal with, whether it be lust, drunkenness, or whatever, all of these are things that separate us from the Most High. And all these things are tactics that the enemy constantly puts in our way, because the enemy understands that. The enemy understands how the Most High views the men of Judah. All right. And as I'm speaking, a lot of stuff is coming to mind. I'm gonna pull this up real quick. This is how I'm gonna start. Let me see. Shalom to everybody coming in. Y'all do me a favor, hit the like and all that good stuff. Like and subscribe. T.I.R, Talk Show and Fellowship, Resurrecting the Truth. Y'all know what it is. Let me see. All right, check this out. I want Lamentations is what I want. You know how you have stuff scripted out or laid out, you know, and it still don't work out that way. It's kind of how this is, but it's gonna be all right, y'all. Lamentations. I want to set some context to the men of Judah. All right. And how the Most High views the men of Judah. It says, how is the gold become dim? This is Lamentations 4:1. How is the gold become dim? All right. How is the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. All right. So we're talking about gold losing its splendor, right? I'm not really an expert in metals and gold and things like that. I can't say gold can lose its value. You know, gold in any form can always be, you know, refined and, you know, that type of thing. But gold losing its splendor, gold becoming dim, you know, in other contexts in the scripture, it talks about gold with cankers and rust. But this is asking a question, or is making a exclamation, right? How is the gold become dim, right? The most precious fine gold is changed. The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. Watch this. The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. How are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter, right? The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. This is what the Bible says about the men of Israel. Let me ask y'all something. I want y'all to put some in the chat for me. We see what the Bible is saying about the men of Israel. What does the world say about the men of Israel? What does society say about the men of Israel? What do some of us say about the men of Israel in comparison to what this is saying? The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. All right. I'm going to tell you what people are saying about the men of Israel. All right. They'll tell you that niggas ain't sugar, honey, iced tea. See, y'all thought I was finna say it. I'm trying to work on that. You know, it come out every once in a while the way it's supposed to. But that's what's being said. Long story short, black men are worthless. All right. Black men are incapable. Black men have no value. All right. These are the things that's being said. But the scriptures says this, that the precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers? Right? Earthen pitchers, meaning something that can be replaced at any time, at any moment, something that's not really worth anything. When they do excavations and archaeology, they find pictures, right? They say this was an old picture or something. You know what they do? They just put it to the side. It's not really worth anything. Millions of them just cracked or whatever. Handles broken off. Earthen pictures. That's what the scriptures is saying. How have the precious sons of Zion, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter? How have we become esteemed as something lower than the Most High made us to be? All right. Let's go to another place. Because we're dealing with the downfalls, right? The men of Judah have fell down low. How has that happened? All right. And real quick, I want to examine this thumbnail right here. All right, it says the downfall of the men of Judah. Or how have the precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold, become esteemed as the earthen vessels, the works of the potter's hand? All right, we see a dollar sign here. Dollar sign. We see a woman in the middle, and we see wine over to the right. The downfall of the men of Judah. I should have made that plural. All right, but y'all get the point. You know, it's all one and the same. The money, right? Some people might say, how is that a downfall? How is money a downfall? And we can answer that by simply saying it's not the money itself. We all know what the scripture says about the money, right? And how the love for money is the root of all evil. But then when you look at the spirit behind the money that we work for, see, none of this is by coincidence. I always say that institutionally, whatever we follow, religiously, whatever we follow, we always embody the spirit of whatever it is that we follow. Whatever it is that we associate ourselves with. So what's the spirit behind this money? We look at the faces on the dollar bills. Right now a lot of stuff is digital. The faces on the dollar bills, right? What do those faces represent? Those faces represent the idols of America, the people that America wants to prop up and make us worship, make us think that these people are the pinnacle. These are the fathers of the nation. These are the people who established, the great pioneers that established and built and revolutionized everything. When really, these are just slave masters, all of them. That's the spirit behind the money. See, these men died off, but their legacies continue, and they continue the same thing. And it's mostly aimed at us. That's the downfall behind the money. Right? Not putting it in proper perspective, and to a fault, you know, working so hard to where we lose everything behind it. Then you see the woman in the middle, right? The white woman, the blonde hair. I did that on purpose. I could have made her black, you know, but that was on purpose because this signifies the type of woman that is prohibited. It's a foreign woman, right? You see what type of dress she has on or lack thereof. She got the blonde hair, right? Which all this is symbolic, you know, sex symbol, red lipstick. All this accentuates sexuality. This is what our men fall for. This is what the men of Judah fall for. Sexuality. Particularly from, you know, I'm just going to say out of bounds. It don't even have to necessarily be with a foreign woman, you know, because we can move out of bounds and do things within our own demographic. And that's why we're in the condition that we in. Then you got the wine to the right. We're going to read about all of this and understand why these things are a downfall to the men of Judah. All right. The wine, you know, is said to be, you know, I used to hear people say wine is like liquid confidence. You know, a person gets some wine in them and they get loose enough to do things that they wouldn't normally do, say things they wouldn't normally say. I've known people to get so full of wine and liquor or whatever, and now all of a sudden the whole vibe and changed. Now you got all kind of fighting and cussing and everything going on, and even in just a more direct sense of what we're talking about, wine can cause people to sin. Wine can cause you to, but let me say it like this. Wine can bring out the things in you that's not addressed or dealt with. It can elevate those things. So as a man, if you're dealing with lust, right, and you're in an atmosphere where you have alcohol, you got women, you know, that kind of thing, and you get too much wine in you and you haven't addressed that, then that wine is going to bring something out in you, or it's going to elevate that spirit in you that's not been addressed. And this is not a judgment or anything. This is just, once again, this is, all of us are susceptible to this if we're not careful. That's all I'm saying. All of us, or I'm not going to say all, many of us have fell into these things. All right. Some of us are dealing with these things now. It's a lot of people in the truth who are dealing with things, you know, and so that's what this is all about, you know, just addressing this. So let's read this real quick. Hold on. We talked about the men of Judah and how the men of Judah are comparable to fine gold, right? How have we diminished so much? How have we become nothing, like the world says about us? The world shake their head at us and say different things about us. How have we failed to that point? All right, this is Sirach 23. I'm gonna start at verse 1. Shout out to jUDAH Malik for the Hebrew Israelite scriptures as well. That's what I'm reading from tonight. Sirach 23 and 1. O Yahuwah, Father and Governor of all my whole life. Excuse me. It says, leave me not to their counsels and let me not fall by them. All right. He says, leave me not to their counsels and let me not fall by them. In the Psalms, it says, blessed is the man that standeth not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. All right. So it's saying to the Father, it says, leave me not to their counsels. All right. It says, who will set scourges over my thoughts and the discipline of wisdom over mine heart? All right. That they spare me not for mine ignorances, and it pass not by my sins. So in other words, who gonna look out for me? Who gonna protect me? The enemy got it out for me. The enemies, they got wicked counsels and wicked devices set up for me. And who's going to look out for me? Who's going to set scourges over my thoughts? That's the first thing he said, my thoughts. Because the enemies like to attack our thoughts by what they put in front of us through the media, by what they let pump through the airways, through the music. You see what I'm saying? This is how they gain control of our thoughts. And then they let us go to these religious institutions week in, week out, where these issues are not being addressed. All right. A lot of men, a lot of times we justify fornication and lust by, different means. But it's saying, who's going to set scourges over my thoughts and the discipline of wisdom over my heart? And that's why he tells us to commit our thoughts to the Most High, meditate on his law day and night. People think, how I'm going to think about that 24/7. It's not that you're just thinking about that 24/7 and nothing else. It's just that it's a constant thing in your mind and in your heart throughout the day. As you move throughout the day, you're thinking about the Most High. You're thinking about your actions, your thoughts throughout the day, and everything that you do. You considering the ways of the Most High daily. You see what I'm saying? You can still live your life and be a person. You know what I mean? It's just that you're doing it with a certain order now. It says that they spare me not for mine ignorances, and it pass not by our sins. So when we fall into certain things as men, right, it says they spare me not for my ignorances. You have this thing where people are saying, men are so unaccountable. Men are not being held accountable. And I beg to differ. We're always held accountable. Nobody spares us for our ignorances. When we make mistakes, who's there to spare us? Who's there to lift us up? Right? Especially not our enemies. Because with us down, that's pretty much the ideal place they want us to be. Is down. So everything they do is set up to make sure that that happens. We can bypass it by being wise and walking in the truth. The Most High said that if a man's ways are pleasing to him, that he will cause his enemies to be at peace with him. So there's a way to bypass what the enemy is doing, So, for people who like to say, y'all making excuses and not taking accountability. It says, lest my ignorance increase, my ignorance is increased, and my sins abound to my destruction. And I fall before mine adversaries, and mine enemy rejoice over me, whose hope is far from thy mercy. Right? So this is how the men of Judah diminished. Right? He's pretty much describing the condition that we're in. How do we diminish? Right? The only way we can diminish is when our ignorances increase. When our ignorances increase, then we decrease. And my sins abound to my destruction. This is what happened. This is how fine gold turns dim. Right? This is how the precious gold is now esteemed as earthen pitchers, because our ignorance is increased and our destruction increased. Ignorance increased, destructions increase, and we decrease. Right? The men of Judah, comparable to fine gold. I'm setting this precedent so that we can understand what we fell from and what we want to come back to. We want to go through some of our history, look at what the forefathers said about us prophetically. All right, because the beautiful thing about our plight is that we don't have to go blindly searching and guessing why. You know what I'm saying? Everything we see happening with our people is already documented. It's written. So when we read it, we can look at where we are and we can see the hope in the future of our people. And these things are important to deal with because, you got a lot of people who are trying to explain what's happening in the world, explain every move that Donald Trump is making, explain every move that, the aliens is making and this, and that. And that's cool. But if we don't know the Bible, what good is any of that? What's going to happen is going to happen, right? Every time Trump make a move or cough or sneeze, we hear it. And first thing we do, we want to start running and trying to see what's happening, what the Most High doing, right? Meanwhile, we're still dealing with what we're dealing with. You got people who don't know the scriptures. You got people lying on the scriptures. You got people misrepresenting them, right? You got our brothers and sisters still butting heads with each other. And we think that the Most High is just going to, deal with that. When he's given us an opportunity to understand his truth and his word while the time is good, get it while it's good. Because it's going to come a time when people going to want to know and understand the word, and they're not going to be able to. So these things are just to deal with that kind of stuff. I want to go. Let me see where I'm at. All right. I want to address a sentiment real quick that, let me see, where am I at? I want to be here and then I want to be here too. But before I deal with this, I want to address a sentiment that men, we may have heard this a lot, particularly from women. You might hear women say it's the men's fault for why things are the way that we are, for why things are the way that they are, rather. When you look at how the households are broken up, oftentimes you don't see men in the homes. That's not to say men are not in the lives of their children, that kind of thing. But a lot of homes are divided. You have a lot of women who are living and being and behaving certain types of ways. And one of the things you might hear a lot is, it's the men's fault. The men fell short, the men sinned, and that's why it is the way it is. And you might even see a lot of men get offended with that. What's going on, Brother Kadar? Brother Johannan, I see y'all in the chat. But you might hear a lot of men take offense to that, hearing that sentiment that it's the men's fault. Men say, it's not our fault for this, and that. But I'm gonna say something. And after I say this, we're gonna read, all right? We're gonna bring some light and clarity to what's being said. But I'm gonna say this, fellas, to the men. Women are correct. Women are right. It is our fault. It's our fault. Now, like I said, we're going to explain this. What do I mean when I say it's our fault as men? Do I mean that, the men haven't done this, the men haven't handled their business? I can't speak for every man in that regard. I can't say every man hasn't done what he's supposed to do in the house. Every man hasn't taken care of his children. Every man hasn't, handled his responsibility, that kind of thing, right? It's not even about that. When I say it's our fault, right? You have a lot of women out here who are loose. They're whorish, and that's how they live their life. And they'll say that it's the men's fault. All right. I'm gonna say this, fellas, it is our fault. All right, and I'm gonna explain why. When it comes to how women are, the way they are, the way they deal with men, the way they rationalize with a man, the way they view a man, it's our fault, right? It's not your fault. It's not our fault as men, right? For how they are, even though they do certain things, they view a certain type of way, right? It's not our fault that they're that way. It's our fault due to how we handle or mishandle the situation. And I'm gonna explain it. I'm gonna explain it further. All right, let's read. All right, this is from the Colburn. This is just a biblical historical text. All right, I won't call it scripture. All right, but this will segue us into scripture. This says there are two categories of womankind. All right. Now, fellas, I'm going to explain to you why it's our fault, right? I'm going to say this first and foremost. It's our fault because we lack the knowledge that we should possess when it comes to being men and relating to women. All right. I'm not an expert on women. I'm just a man who understands that we as men lack the basics and fundamentals when it comes to understanding who we are, understanding what a woman is and who women are. We lack the basic understanding of how to classify and deal with women. Right? So it's our fault in that regard. Let's get some more understanding why. They say there are two categories of womankind, right? Wives or potential wives and women of pleasure. right? These are the two categories that womankind is divided into, right? It's only two types of women: wives, potential wives, right? And then it says women of pleasure. How many people in the chat understood this principle? By one or two. If you understood that, put one. If you didn't understand that, put two. That it's only two types of women: wives, potential wives, and women of pleasure. I'm gonna wait for some ones and some twos. We got a one, Zuriah one, Brother Yohanan one. Brother Yana, what's going on, bro? It says our forefathers disregarded the law and walked contrary to the law. Indeed. Brother T1, Brother Yana Kota one. And this is something that we grow to understand. Shibri one. This is something that we grow to understand more once we mature, get older. Because life, when you get older, I know I'm speaking like a man who been living many years. I'm only 40 something, y'all, but I'm just speaking on my experience. It's like when you get older, mentally you start to narrow out. You know what I'm saying? Some things you might have deemed important, you might not see them as important now. Once you get older, you start to, simplify stuff because you're realizing that as a man, life is about, being content, finding your contentment. This is something I got to do for the next however many years the Most High give me. So let me find my contentment as a man, whatever comes, ups and downs, growths, whatever, will happen within that. Let me find my comfort with the Most High, solidify myself with that, then let's just live life from there. But when it comes to women, as a man, when you get older, you start to narrow it out, and you start to see that, okay, this is what it is. It's not about all this variety and this and that. It's about finding what belongs to you. Understand the basics, man. It's only two types. The same thing with the men, right? Same thing with men. But this is talking about the categories of the women, right? It's only two types. It says the first of these are the intended mates of men, their companions, their comforters, the mothers of their children, and the goddesses of their hurts. All right, that says hurt. I know it looked like heart, but it's hurt. A hurt is how can I put it? A hurt is like a passageway that separates a fireplace from the place where it's actually warming up, so it doesn't burn up the place that it's actually warming up. It's like a filter, so to speak. I may not be explaining it right, but that's kind of how it is. Even if you look at a conventional heater, some of them, they have the fire boxes, then they have the little panels, the little panel from the firebox that leads to the room where it's heating up. It's kind of like that. All right. In other words, your woman, she's the guardian of the home. She keeps the home warm. She keeps you comforted. She's the mother of your children, that kind of thing, right? Then it says the others become their companions in carnal pleasure they dally with them, then cast them aside, and they pass on to the embrace of other uncaring men. All right, so this is describing the other type of woman. All right, you got one woman who is your comforter, your companion, the mother of your children, and then you got another woman who is just your companion in carnal pleasure. You do what you do, and then you cast her aside, and then she go on with somebody else to do the same thing. What do we call this? All right. In modern day time, we call these 304s. Scriptures, we call these women whores or harlots. All right. Brother Johannes said a pass around. That's one word for it. One of the many. Right. We're speaking on the downfalls of the men of Judah. And remember, I said we showing why it's our fault as men, right? Because most people don't understand this basic principle. Most men don't, right? It says each woman decides which category she will join, right? So what I say is it's our fault as men. It's not our fault that women choose what they want to be, right? It's our fault for not dealing with it in proper perspective. It's our fault as men for taking women that are not worth the companionship, not worth what men are really supposed to do for a woman, and putting them in the wrong category. It says each woman decides which category she will join, and that is her chosen path. And it says never confuse the two kinds of women, lest you eat out your heart in sorrow and regret. How many brothers are in regret right now? How many brothers have heard stories from other brothers about them regretting, being in the situation or putting themselves in a situation because, they didn't know or they didn't apply the proper understanding? It's telling you right here, never confuse the two kinds of women, right? Lest you eat out your heart in sorrow and regret, right? So in other words, it's going to be on us as men when we make the wrong decisions. Then it says this. It says it is decreed by the nature of things that womankind should fall into two groups, right? So this is the nature of it. Remember when I said as we get older, things start to narrow out? That's just simply saying when we get older, the nature of things start to become more clear and apparent. Fundamentals and basics of things start to become more important. And this is what this is telling you, right? It is decreed by the nature of things that womankind should fall into two categories or two groups, right? And not only that, this is the part when I say it's our fault. This is the part right here that most of us don't understand. It says, and each woman is to be dealt with according to the category in which she has placed herself, right? It is decreed by the nature of things that womankind should fall into two groups, and each woman is to be dealt with according to the category in which she has placed herself. Now, how is it our fault as men? It's our fault as men because of this part right here, not knowing and understanding this last part. All right. I gonna shake it up some right here. I'm gonna up the tone a little bit. How many of us men and women in the chat? All right. How many of us understood and knew that there is a law in how you deal with whores according to the scripture? How many of y'all knew that? Put a 1 in the chat if you knew it. Put a 2 in the chat if you did. This is a downfall. It's an ultimate downfall in Israel, but it's a particular downfall of the men of Judah. How many of us knew that there's a law in the scripture of how you deal with a whore? Put a 1 if you knew. Put a 2 if you didn't know. I see some 2s. I see some 2s. All right. All right. So first place I want to go. Give me a second. Give me a second. There. See some 1s and some 2s. Let me see. I'm still, yeah, I'm just kind of freestyling a little bit. Okay. See some 2s, some 1s. Appreciate the participation, y'all. Those who are participating. All right. So let me come here. I want to go to Deuteronomy 23, of course, first, right? Now, this is actually in the law. Many people, I'm sure, are aware of this, right? Deuteronomy 23, verse 17. It says, there should be no whore for the daughters of Zion, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. Now, I want y'all to read this scripture. I want y'all to see the irony in the scripture. This is a law in Israel. This is a law or custom, a law, statute within our constitution as a people. This is an actual law. This is in the law. Among Israelites, it's against the law to be a whore. It's against the law to be a sodomite. What do we see mainly pushed and promoted in society today to our people in particular? What is the whole feminist movement about from top to bottom? The whole LGBT plus movement, the whole, I ain't gonna say the whole DEI. DEI was more political, you know. But what is all that about? What do we see being mostly pushed and promoted in society today? These two things. Are women being whores and the men being effeminate, sodomites. I'm not going to say effeminate, right? Because you don't have to be feminine to be a sodomite. It's some rough dudes walking around who about their life too, who may not come off as feminine, is what I'm saying. But these are things that are a part of Gentile society that the Most High said we would be a part of once he scattered us, right? So This is in the law, right? There should be no whore of the daughters of Zion, right? No sodomites. It says hypersexualization of our women. Yeah, this is what, and this is against the law of the Most High, right? Now, there is a law and how, hold on, let me find it. Let me see something. Let's see. Told you I didn't have this. I'm kind of freestyling this. Okay. I think it's it says gay men and promiscuous women. And you know what's funny? I was looking at this this little sitcom, right? These little, these little shows. I wasn't really following it. I was just looking at some clips of it. And it's funny because this sitcom expressed something I already knew, that a lot of these women who condone men being gay and all that and act like it's cool, really on the low, they be sexually active with these dudes. They be letting these dudes smash, man, on the low. And the sitcom revealed it because, it was this girl. She had come in town or whatever, and one of the guys worked at the barbershop. It was like a barbershop setting. And one of the guys who worked in the barbershop, he was kind of bisexual, So a girl came in town with her son, right, who he hadn't seen in a while. And the last time he seen her, she didn't have a child and all this kind of stuff. And they remember hanging out and getting drunk and, all that kind of stuff. Long story short, she pops up on the scene with a 10-year-old son, 8-year-old son, 10-year-old son, something like that. And she tells him that she thinks the boy is his son, right? Because you remember years ago when we got drunk and, one thing led to another, but the dude was gay. Dude was bisexual. And they put it right there in the show. See what I'm saying? But then what's the issue is down low men is the issue, right? So we see the law saying don't do either. And ironically, both of them seem to clash. All right. Watch this. I'm gonna go to I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna go to Sirach. There is a law and how you are supposed to deal with this, right? Watch this. Sirach 26:22. All right. This is a law. It says, and harlot shall be counted as spittle, right? And harlot shall be counted as spittle. Doesn't this denote law? If I was to ask anybody, what is the law of faith? All right. What does the law of faith state? The law of faith states that the just shall live by faith. All right. All the rest of the laws denote thou shalt not, or thou shalt not. This is the law and how you are to deal with a harlot. This is how they're supposed to be dealt with. All right. Particularly those women who bear their shame, wear their shame, and are proud of it. You're not to count them any higher than this. Something that you spit out of your mouth onto the ground. This is their worth. How many of us as men understood this? How many of us are marrying women like this? This is why they don't respect marriage, because we giving it to them. Y'all hear the saying men control the access to marriage and women control the access to sex. I don't necessarily agree with that. But if you want to roll with that, look at how freely we're taking these women and marrying them. All right. Look all in the look in the media, man. Look at these young guys marrying these women, knowing they have intentions to not really be mothers or anything lasting to help build a legacy. They just want to solidify themselves. And we're giving them the ultimate what you call it, the ultimate affirmation, the ultimate approval. See what I'm saying? Just like a woman who gives a child to a man but has no intentions of being with that man or being a wife or truly being a mother. She just having a baby for her own benefit. This is our downfall. You look at today, you look at all these different panels where they talking about relationships, and all you see is hoes running their mouth and men giving them the floor. It's like, what do a hoe have to say that's valuable, worth anything? What is a hoe saying now that ain't been said 20 years ago? I'm in my 40s. I'm not hearing nothing different from when I was in high school, elementary school, grade school. I'm hearing the same stuff, and we going for it. We have to get on code as men and understand this. This is the law. Right? Watch this. Hold on. Hold on. Proverbs chapter 6. And this is a Israelite issue, man. So just deal with it, you know. We done all swum in this pool before, man or woman. If you haven't repented, then this is for you. So I can run you all night about stuff, man. It's nothing new under the sun. It's just, you know, we don't want nobody to know it's us. But the scriptures say you're going to loathe yourselves for your sins. Will you really, truly repent for something? The first thing the Most High do is he reveal the truth to you of what you did, the full magnitude of what you did. Even if he don't allow you to suffer all the ramifications of it, he opens your eyes up to understand the fullness, the depths of it. This is what you're really doing. This is what you really involved yourself with. It's what's working against you now that you done did this or did that, and you don't even realize it. Proverbs 6, it says, in 26, it says, for by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. It says, by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread. Right? If I was to explain this in layman's terms, right, to a brother on the job, or we just chopping it up, I would say that as men, when we fool with whores, when we mess with whores, we diminish our value. As a man, an Israelite man, when you fool with a whore, when you mess around with a whore, you diminish your value. You bring your own value down. That's what this is telling you. For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread. Meaning you won't have nothing. Because a whorish woman will see to it that you have nothing. Because that's the only way a whorish woman can keep you. Is to bring you down. This is the nature of it. How many of y'all know men who, because they got with a certain type of woman, it's like, damn, they just fell out, lost everything. They lost everything. And now they lost everything. And now that same female is doing the same thing to him that she did to, doing the same thing to another dude rather than she did to him. This is what happens when you get with a whorish woman. You lose it. You lose focus. You lose sight of your purpose. And all she's going to do is sit there and cipher all of your energy away. Because that's the purpose of a whorish woman. They bring no value. They diminish the value. And then they raise up children that perpetuate the same cycle. This is the law concerning a whore. And this is what happens to us as men when we fool with that, when we involve ourselves with that. Let's look at Judah. All right. Let's look at what Judah told his sons. We're talking about the downfalls. Now, these downfalls are written. Like I said, the comfort in all of this is that this stuff is written. This is said to happen. It's going to happen. But then we got a promise of redemption. These things, when you look at lust, when you look at fornication, when you look at drunkenness and all these types of things, when we read the records of our forefathers, and I think we may come across, no, it's not in this record. I think it's in Levi's record, where it talks about how every evil spirit is going to aim itself at the sons of Judah and the sons of Levi, particularly those tribes. But it talked about all the sons of Israel. But it said every evil spirit is aimed itself at the sons of Levi and the sons of Judah. Why do y'all think that is? And why have we become so susceptible to all these evil spirits? Why is it that when I talk to a brother, no matter where I am, one of the main issues I can detect in a brother is, man, you have a problem with lust. I don't judge them. I don't call them out for it. I just see it. Plenty times, man, I'll be having a discussion with a brother, man, about something in depth or whatever, and a female will walk by and it's like he lose all track of what we talking about because he see her ass walk by. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, bro, if you done seen that, I'm sure you done seen plenty more. You know, why we can't focus on the discussion we had? It's not that you shouldn't desire a woman, but it's like if even on a professional level, you know what I'm saying? You never know who you're talking to, right? You can be talking to somebody who have connections or maybe looking for somebody that's sincere to put in a position or whatever, and they just scoping people out, and you bringing that kind of energy, and they look at you, oh man, this brother can't even control his lust, you know. He looking at every woman walk by. Man, my wife worked up at this thing I'm trying to get going. I don't want to bring him around, stuff like that. It holds us up. It stops us, just even in our own personal life, Look at what he said. It says, and now I command you, my children, hearken to jUDAH your father and keep my sayings to perform all the ordinances of Yahuwah and to obey the commands of Elohim, and walk not after your lusts, nor in the imagination of your thoughts, in the haughtiness of heart, and glory not in the deeds and strength of your youth, for this also is evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. Right? He say, don't walk not after your lusts, in imagination of the thoughts of your heart. Right? Then it says, and glory not in the deeds and strength of your youth, for this also is evil in the eyes of Yahuwah. Because a lot of times, and I've done this some, a lot of times when we reflect on things we done in our youth, it's not always good, and it's not always feasible in terms of the word of the Most High. And even when you look at some of the deeds of our forefathers in their youth and the things that they did, you have people that'll brag about stuff like, what Reuben did. He slept with his one of his father's concubines. In today's time, how many people will sit around and talk about that and laugh about it and glory in it? How many of us glory in how many females we slept with when we was younger? How many people we beat up? He said, don't glory in those things because those things are evil in the eyes of the Most High. It says, since I also glory that in wars, no comely woman's face ever enticed me, and reproved Reuben my brother concerning Bilhah, the wife of my father, the spirit of jealousy and of fornication arrayed themselves against me, until I lay with Bathshua the Canaanite, and Tamar, who was the spouse to my sons. So he said that he reproved his brother for what he did to Bilhah, right? And because of that, it said the spirits of fornication and jealousy arrayed themselves against him, because these are spirits, right? Jealousy, fornication, these are spirits, active spirits. They move and they operate in people, right? It says that, for I said to my father-in-law, I will take counsel with my father, and so will I take thy daughter. And he was unwilling, but he showed me a boundless store of gold in his daughter's behalf, for he was a king. And he adorned her with gold and pearls, and caused her to pour out wine for us at the feast with the beauty of women. And the wine turned aside my eyes, and pleasure blinded my heart. And I became enamored of, and I lay with her, and transgressed the commandment of Yahweh and the commandment of my fathers, and I took her to wife. And Yahweh rewarded me according to the imagination of my heart, inasmuch as I had no joy in her children. So what he just described in so many words is what a lot of brothers go through today, right? He said that he was going to take counsel with his father, right? But his father-in-law was unwilling, and he showed him a boundless store of gold in his daughter's behalf, for he was a king. So he was unwilling to allow Judah to consult with his father concerning this woman, this Canaanite woman, because had he done that, his father, of course, would have told him no. But, you know, Judah understood and knew better at the same time that he wasn't supposed to do that. Right. And so him knowing and understanding that and still putting himself in a position like this to be tempted, that made the temptation worse, because now her father showed him all this money, right, on her behalf, all this money that she had, right, that he was going to give on her behalf. And what's one of the things we fall for as men? You know, I hear a lot of brothers, talk about getting with women for that reason, because they got money. Or she got some bread, or she got this and she got that. And we see a lot of them get with women like that. They got money, they got this, they got that. But then they end up in a situation where they not being respected. They being belittled. Or they with a woman who contending with them constantly. And don't mistake it in thinking I'm saying it's wrong with a woman having money at all. I'm not saying that. We just talking about what comes with it. All right. Judah saw all that money and said, yeah, I gotta have her. On top of that, he had her looking nice. She was looking good. Then it says, and wine, it said that wine turned aside my eyes and pleasure blinded my heart. He had her pouring out wine for him, round after round, and he getting more and more drunk. And the more he drink, the better she looked. He seeing all that gold and that money, and she dressed up, and like, it's a lot of fellas, man, that been in that situation. You out somewhere, and some fellas know what I'm talking about. They call it taking one for the team. How many of y'all had to take one for the team? You have to drink so much to where you got so much to where you was just like, man, all right, whatever. Right? Judah say, man, the more and more he drunk, she started looking good and all that money. He yielded to it. Right? Lust, money, and wine. Right? And it says, and I became enamored, and I lay with her, and transgressed the commandment of Yahweh and the commandment of my fathers, and I took her to wife. And Yahweh rewarded me according to the imagination of my heart, in so much as I had no joy in her children. How many brothers have lusted after a woman, right? got with that woman, went as far as gotten that woman pregnant or whatever, had a child with that woman, and now you're on child support, fighting with that woman over spending 30 minutes on the weekend with that child. Right? You going through all that hell fighting over a child that when they get old enough to reason and speak for themselves, they're not gonna have no respect for you no way. So you're not gonna find no joy in those children. Right? It says, and now my children, I say unto you, be not drunk with wine. For wine turneth the mind away from the truth. Be not drunk with wine, for wine turneth the mind, right, away from the truth. Now understand what this is saying. Excuse me. This ain't saying that if you know and believe you're Israelite, and you go and you get drunk off some Jack Daniels or something, now all of a sudden you're gonna be saying I ain't an Israelite no more. It's for the moment, right? It's for the moment, just like let me see, let me get a good example. I would say David and Bathsheba, but it didn't say that he got drunk or she got drunk, but that's still a good example, right? That's for the moment, you know what I mean? When he looked out the window, he saw her, number one, he was supposed to have been out fighting, and he wasn't out where he was supposed to be. And so all it took was a moment to cause a domino effect. It said, what about the homies who met a female drunk at the club? Yeah, there you go. How many oops babies? I forgot about that word, oops babies. That's the 80s. That's a 1980s thing right there. 80s and early 90s. Oops babies. Yep. That's how I go down. All right. But it's a thing of the moment when you get drunk, right? And you're in the wrong environment, you put yourself in the wrong environment, and you start meshing yourself into that environment and blending in and peeping the scene and everything. You get some drinks in you. Then you start telling yourself, oh man, I'm just a man, just a man. Like any other man, Like shoot, Noah got drunk, start justifying it. Like Christians say, Noah was a drunk and all that, which is a lie. Noah wasn't no drunk. But this is just the things we do. It says, watch this. I say unto you, be not drunk with wine, for wine turneth the mind away from the truth and inspires the passion of lust and leadeth the eyes into error. Y'all missed that. Right? That liquor be deceiving you. I can't say I ever experienced this or went through this, but I've heard a lot of people talk about getting so drunk, and doing stuff that, or just long story short, man, I got so drunk, I don't know what I did. I used to look at niggas crazy when they said that around me. You got so drunk, you don't know what you did. But you did something, right? You don't know what you did. Right? See? But this says you get so drunk that it lead the eyes into error. How many brothers y'all done heard before say, man, You know, this girl, man, she, you know, I had to drink myself into I had to drink myself into her looking a certain type of way for me to do something. Like I never really understood that, but I guess it's a real thing. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and say I never got drunk before, but you know, I knew how much money was in my pocket, and I knew it would. That's how much money should have been in my pocket when I got up. That's what I knew. You know, and I always felt liquor would have you so inebriated. Like if you're saying you got so drunk, you don't know what you did. You know, that means that you was completely out of it. That anything could have happened. You see what I'm saying? I always felt like people said that to justify other stuff. That's why I always looked at people crazy when they said that. But I heard plenty of brothers say, man, I got so drunk, man. This chick, man, she bad looking, ugly chick, you know, but I drunk so much. And that this is a prime example of that in the scripture. It leads your eyes into error. See what I'm saying? All of a sudden the big forehead start blending in. You start making it look right. Start, you know, making yourself get ready to justify what this liquor finna make you do. It says the spirit of fornication hath wine as a minister to give pleasure to the mind. They work together. The spirit of fornication and wine work together. That's why they call it spirits. That's why it's good for certain people not to even drink or do anything. Because if you are already a certain type of person and you start getting these drugs in you, this alcohol in you, it's just gonna make that even worse. It's gonna excite that even more. It's real life, y'all. I done seen this kind of stuff happen. You see what I'm saying? I done got so drunk one time, all I could see was right what was in front of me. I was still aware. I was aware enough to know that I was drunk and I don't need to be walking around. So you know what I did? I sat my ass down. That's what I did. I said, man, I don't want no more. I done had enough. I'm good. Some people, you know, and I'm not saying that's cool. You know, I'm not into that no more, you know, because you shouldn't get drunk. That's not what wine is for. You know, you don't drink wine to drunkenness. You drink wine to be merry, you know, to celebrate, to be joyful. Then you put it down. You know what I mean? You say, for these two also take away the mind of a man. Fornication and drunkenness take away your mind. The purpose of taking away your mind, or when they say you lose all faculty, is to cause you to not consider the law of the Most High in that instant. That's all. It only take an instant to offend in a major way against the Most High. So I always believe they put something in the alcohol we like to drink. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past the enemy. Yeah, of course. Definitely ain't normal. And it all tastes the same. You know, I'm not really into liquor like that. You know, I used to like Jack Daniels, you know what I mean? But Most High say your wine is bitter, man. Our wine, we got bitter wine. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got the good stuff. Say, for if a man drink wine to drunkenness, it disturbeth the mind with filthy thoughts, leading to fornication. and heated the body to carnal union. And if the occasion of the lust be present, he worketh the sin and is not ashamed. All right. This is where all this other weird stuff come in. I'm telling y'all. It says it disturbed the mind with filthy thoughts leading to fornication. That's why I say you'll never hear me say drinking is a sin. Right? Because it tell you if you drink wine to drunkenness, this is what will happen. It'll disturb your mind with filthy thoughts, leading to fornication, and heated the body to carnal union. And if the occasion of the lust be present, he worketh the sin and is not ashamed. When I was coming up, y'all, it was a lot of rap songs, that we used to listen to. I'm from the South, so we used to listen to the Ghetto Boys and Willie D and stuff like that. And it was this famous song that came out back when I was in grade school. And I'm not gonna say it, but it basically revolved around women, sex, weed, and alcohol. And the hook was, "It seems to satisfy us all." Some of y'all probably remember that song. And looking back in retrospect, it's like, damn, man, it's funny how we read this stuff and then we look at what we've been through and how it's all mapped out. See what I'm saying? We seen this stuff. It's in our music. The whole theme about the downfall of the men of Judah, they got a song, a Ghetto Boy song that revolves around that theme. And it was a hit song. But this is what we reading. This was written ages ago, telling you this is what will happen. He said, "Such is the inebriated man, my children, for he who is drunken reverenceth no man." Right? He who is drunken reverenceth no man. For lo, it made me also to err, so that I was not ashamed of the multitude in the city, and that before the eyes of all I turned aside unto T.I.R, and I wrought a great sin, and I uncovered the covering of my son's shame. See, back then, when he said, I was not ashamed of the multitude in the city, and that before the eyes of all I turned aside unto T.I.R. Back then, if you was a whore, you would sit out in the open, and everybody knew who you were. Everybody saw you, and so everybody saw when you went into the quarters with that whore. The whole city knew. And he's saying that he got so drunk he didn't care if they saw. I ain't saying they watched them in the action, but everybody saw you go in there. All right. They knew what you was going in there for. All right. And so when you came out of there, that was your reputation with that city. You know what I'm saying? That was your reputation. That's what you did. That's what you was known for. Everybody know this woman, but once you go in there with her, now everybody know that that's what you about. So he said, I ain't had no shame about that. He said, after I had drunk wine, I reverenced not the commandment of Elohim, and I took a woman of Canaan to wife. All right. Because he said, when you an inebriated man reverenceth no man. It says, for much discretion needed the man who drinketh wine, my children, and herein is the discretion in drinking wine. A man may drink so long as he preserveth modesty. All right. A man may drink so long as he preserveth modesty. Now the question is, what is modesty? Is there a limit to modesty? Yeah, of course it is. Before you get drunk, I always say, if I have some wine or something, if I start to feel good and feel merry, then I'll stop. If I have one more after that, I'll stop. I'm starting to feel good now. You see what I'm saying? And you know your own self. You know how things make you feel, right? And this is not for everybody, like I said, but for those who can handle it, understand, when you have a certain amount, what's good enough for you. You see what I'm saying? You always have that consciousness in you to say, all right, I done had enough. I done had two. I'm feeling good. I'm good with that. Modesty. Modesty means, don't overdo it. Some people might have one or two and might want to continue, but they say, you know what? In the spirit of modesty, I'm going to stop right there. Modesty is just controlling what you intake, being modest, being respectful to yourself, and knowing limits. You can drink a whole 3 bottles of wine if you want to, right? But then if you do that, what's going to be the result of that? I had a homeboy one night, he had a birthday party some years back, had a birthday party and they was all going out. Before they went out, they come to the house and, hang out or whatever. He tossed back a whole bottle of Jose Cuervo. I say, hey, man, you don't want to do that, right? He looking, oh, man, I'm going to be all right. And he just taking it back. I say, hey, man, you don't want to do that, bro. If you want to enjoy yourself tonight, you don't want to do that. You don't want to listen to me. Later on that night, he throwing all over his outfit, right? You don't want to do that. I'm telling you, once that liquor get in you like that, you do not have full control like you think. You don't want to do that. See? And he got so drunk, he woke up the next day and it was just like it took him some days to get over that. But I told him, like, come on, man. Take it slow. If you're going to be doing that, take it slow, man. It says, if he go beyond this limit, the spirit of deceit attacketh his mind, and it maketh the drunkard to talk filthily, and to transgress, and to not be ashamed, but even to glory in his shame, and account himself honorable. Right? Like two dudes get so drunk, they start fighting with rakes. You rake the yard with, they out there fighting with rakes. See? Start doing foolish stuff because you drunk and you don't realize you're in a shameful position. You slobbing all over the place, your clothes falling all off, and you because that liquor in you don't even know that you're in a dishonorable position. It says, now that's talking about the wine, right? The wine, the liquor, how it heightens your senses. Yeah, they say blame it on the alcohol, right? Yeah. That's what liquor do. It heightens your senses, and it's designed that way. You know, Brother Jason said earlier, it might be something in this liquor, man. I believe it, but it's been the same throughout all ages. You get too much in you, it's gonna exploit or bring out what's already embedded in you. You know what I mean? Like the scriptures say, when Noah got drunk, it say he went to sleep. You know, and I always said, when you look at Noah's situation, in our respect, if I was Noah, I would need something for what I just went through and witnessed. They still to this day finding the remains of that catastrophic event to this day, and he witnessed that. Come on, y'all. I need something. I'm gonna need something. All right. It says, he that committed fornication is not aware when he suffers loss, and is not ashamed when put to dishonor. This is what a lot of us brothers don't understand. When fornication, it says, he that commit fornication is not aware when he suffers loss. They did a study about, of course, they do studies all the time, intercourse between men and women with random partners and stuff like that. And when men have sex with multiple women, right? One of the things that happens to you biologically and physically is you start to age faster. One of the things that, especially like with black men, you start to age faster, because when you're having sex, when a man ejaculates, your body is releasing blood cells. And so the more sex you have, the more blood cells, white blood cells, your body is releasing. And your body has to repair, I'm not sure how many, right? But your body has to repair those blood cells. Now, what is one thing that society tells men when it comes to sex? They say that a man has to ejaculate a certain amount of times every month, right? Or else you'll lose your mind or you'll die, whatever they say, right? But the scripture says that, I don't even want to quote it wrong. Let me get it. Watch this. Hold on. I think that's 1 John 3:9. Check this out. They tell you as a man, you have to ejaculate at least 30 times a month, right? As a man. And as a result of that, you see crusty socks under the bed, because a lot of these men aren't able to even access sex like they want, right? It says 1 John 3:9. It says, whosoever is born of Elohim does not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him. And he cannot sin because he is born of Elohim. It says his seed remained in him. Right? He cannot sin because he is born of Elohim. So your seed remains in you. You born of Elohim, your seed remains in you. All right, because you're born of the Most High. They tell you that as a man, you got to let it out. All right, 30 times a month. Now, how do you replace all of that? How do you restore that? They don't give you that. They tell you have to do this. They don't tell you the health ramifications for it. Right. And now what do you see men dealing with mostly? Because of the loss of not being able to reproduce. On top of that, you drinking alcohol, right? Not exercising. Dealing with stress, day-to-day stress from working and all of that. Yeah, that's one way you do it. You'd be surprised at how many people not doing that. That's one way. This ain't no sexual education class, y'all. This is just, y'all can look this stuff up. It says, he that commit fornication is not aware when he suffers loss, and is not ashamed when put to dishonor, right? Not only do you lose physically, right? Monetarily, right? You lose. Look at a lot of these young dudes in the NBA and stuff now, in the NFL, and one of the things that's popular is that a lot of these older women are now getting with these younger dudes. These women in their 40s and stuff, they getting with these dudes in their 20s, getting pregnant by them and all this kind of stuff. And what these young dudes don't realize is that they already at a loss. When she decide to go elsewhere or whatever, then, you know, you already at a loss. She already got you set up. That's why I say after that, it says, for even though a man be a king and commit fornication, he is stripped of his kingship by becoming a slave of fornication, as I myself also suffered. Right. Judah, the forefather of our tribe, right? He's the king of our tribe. And by him fornicating or giving in to that spirit of fornication, he gave all of that up. He basically traded it. He traded his kingship, his nation, his people, for a chance to lay down with a harlot. And you see that happening a million times over today in many forms, many different types of ways. How many men would give up anything for a chance just to be with a woman, only to get with that woman and realize it wasn't even worth it? No matter what she could have done, it ain't worth it. That's a loss. Right? Not to mention whatever she doing for you, she doing for somebody else. How that make you special? It says, for I gave my staff, that is the stay of my tribe, and my girdle, that is my power, and my diadem, that is the glory of my kingdom. He gave up everything because he was drunk and he wanted to lay with a harlot. He wanted to satisfy that moment That's all it take, y'all, is a moment. A moment. And I mean literally a moment. See? I'm sure he ain't spent a lot of time with her doing what he needed to do. It didn't take that long. He did just enough to do what he needed to do to realize he messed up. Gave up everything just for that moment. And indeed, I repented of these things. Wine and flesh I eat not until my old age, nor did I behold any joy. Right? Watch this. He said, I repented, right? What happened after he repented? It says, the angel of Elohim showed me that forever do women bear rule over king and beggar alike. After he repented, the angel of the Lord revealed to him that women bear rule over king and beggar alike. And from the king, they take away his glory, and from the valiant man, his might, and from the beggar, even that little which is the stay of his poverty. This is what a harlot does. If a nigga don't have nothing, they will take your nothing from you. When it say you lose, you lose. If you don't got nothing and you fool with a harlot like this, then guess what? Your nothing becomes double because she'll take that. If you're a king, she'll take your glory away from you. If you're a valiant man, you strong, she'll take your strength away from you. See? She'll want you all up in her all the time. That takes your strength away as a man. She think by doing that, that'll gain her control over your strength. When by doing that, she diminishing it. You diminishing your strength. And he said the angel revealed this to him after he repented. Watch this. Hold on. I think that's Reuben. See, Reuben did the same thing. All right. Reuben did the same thing. And when he did it, watch this. I think it's it says, all right, it's the same thing. This is Reuben chapter 5, right? It says, for evil are women, my children, and since they have no power or strength over the man, they use wiles by outward attractions, that they may draw him to themselves, right? And whom they cannot bewitch by outward attractions, him they overcome by craft. For moreover, concerning them, the angel of Yahweh told me and taught me that women are overcome by the spirit of fornication more than men, and in their heart they plot against men. And by means of their adornment, they deceive first their minds, and by the glance of the eye instill the poison. And then through the accomplished act, they take them captive. So long story short, these women know what they be doing. It's all a calculated plot, right? They understand what they do. But I came here because it said the angel revealed this to him. Right, fellas? So any woman want to argue against you, All right, just show them this. Flesh and blood didn't reveal this. Just like when Judah repented, he said the angel revealed to him, right, that women bear rule over king and beggar, right? Now, this is not to say women rule over men. This is saying that, excuse me, if a king is in a lustful mindset, he's the same as a beggar. He put himself in a position of a beggar, right? And the same thing with a beggar with this mindset, right? Women bear rule over them alike, right? The same rule. You see it all the time. You see men of high stature dealing with situations with women who, when you look at a person of a low degree, they dealing with the same situation. It says, and from the king, they take away his glory, and from the valiant man, his might, and from the beggar, even that little, which is the stay of his poverty. It say, observe therefore, my children, the right limit of wine. Right? Now it's going to break it down. Say, for there are in it 4 evil spirits: lust, hot desire, profligacy, and filthy lucre. All right. So now, let me do something real quick. Let me get a definition for this word. Profligacy: reckless extravagance or wastefulness in the use of resources. Right? So let's tie that to today. Observe therefore, my children, the right limit of wine, for there are in it 4 evil spirits: lust, right, hot desire, profligacy, right, and a filthy lucre. So profligacy is defined as wastefulness in the use of resources. So how many lives have drunkenness destroyed? How many people have I heard one dude say one time, man, I went to a strip club one night, man, and threw $80,000. Dude say he spent $80,000 in one night at the strip club. Alcohol and strippers. Of course, he said he regretted, he would never do nothing like that again. And sometimes that's a lesson learned, I guess, but this is letting you know that this is what that is. That's the spirit that come with it. Right? Wastefulness. Then it says, what do he say? He say $30,000 a month child support. Yeah. 30 grand a month child support to get a kid some Fruit Loops, right? We all know what this is. And the system knows, the system understands it. The system is playing and buying into this. It's against us. But these are spirits that come with it. Hot desire, right? Get you a couple of shots and you get loose. You hear a lot of celebrities saying that. Get you a couple of shots and you get loose. You know what I'm saying? Then you break out the other stuff. You know what I mean? By the time that happened, your full inner self is out now. You got everything in you. It says, if ye drink wine in gladness, be ye modest with the fear of Elohim. For if in your gladness the fear of Elohim departed, then drunkenness arise and shamefulness stealeth in. So be an adult about it, be mature about it. Keep the fear of the Most High in your mind at all times in everything that you do. But if ye would live soberly, do not touch wine at all, lest ye sin in words of outrage, and in fightings, and slanders, and transgressions of the commandments of Elohim, and ye perish before your time. Blame it on the alcohol, right? Liquor can make you do all of this. Maybe it's something more tangible with the spirit thing, more than we think. It says, moreover, wine revealeth the mysteries of Elohim and men, right? Moreover, wine revealeth the mysteries of Elohim and men, even as I also revealed the commandments of Elohim and the mysteries of Jacob my father to the Canaanite woman Bathsheba, which Elohim bade me not to reveal. So in other words, what is that telling you? Liquor will have you running your damn mouth too much. Liquor will have you talking and saying things you're not supposed to be saying because you're feeling good. You got the liquor in you, And you know what they say about people who drink, when people who drunk tell the truth. Like you speak from the heart when you drunk. People who drunk speak from their heart. It's like, nah, people who drunk talk too damn much. And they say stuff that get them in trouble. That's why people who drunk, you always hearing about somebody drunk getting into a fight. Or something bad was going to happen to them, or some negative, because they done got that liquor in them. They got the run in their mouth. In his case, got that liquor in him. He was feeling good. He knew he was finna get him some that night, drinking, and he got to telling her anything she wanted to hear. Thought he was spitting his game or whatever, and he giving up secrets to the Most High. Just like old Samson, got to run his mouth talking to Delilah and gave up the secret. First thing she did is when to set him up. I wouldn't trust no woman asking me, are you asking me about something constantly? Why, what is it that breaks your spirit? Why you need to know that? Shouldn't you want me to always be strong? Why you need to know my weakness? You want to know my weakness so you can conquer me. So you can take over me. So you think you in control. So he let her know his weakness, right? First thing what happened to it? What's first thing that happened to Samson after he revealed his weakness? One of the first thing happened. Because she thought she had control. They put his eyes out. It was never about you, Delilah. It was about getting to Samson. Now we're going to put his eyes out. Now you have no power. You have no control now. You did your part. Get to the side. This is how the powers that be use women in this society, particularly black women. They use y'all to diminish the power of the black men, then they put y'all to the side. We don't need you no more. He said, moreover, wine revealeth the mysteries of God. Right? Wine revealeth the mysteries of God. In other words, wine will have you speaking on things that you shouldn't be speaking on, to people you shouldn't be speaking to them about. This is a Canaanite woman. What she need to know about the things of the Most High for? When you see all our forefathers and mothers warn their sons about them Canaanite women, you know, it says, and wine is a cause both of war and confusion. War and confusion. It says, and now I command you, my children, not to love money, nor to gaze upon the beauty of women, because for the sake of money and beauty, I was led astray to Bathsheba the Canaanite. Right? It's they don't gaze upon the beauty of a woman. You know, what does it mean to gaze? Right? Symbolically, this is telling you, excuse me, it's telling you don't become infatuated by that, by looks. This ain't telling you to go and desire a unattractive woman. It's just saying don't gaze on that. All right. It says, because for the sake of money and beauty, I was led astray. For I know that because of these two things shall my family fall into wickedness. All right. This is prophetic. We wonder why we see what we see today. We wonder why the women of Judah are whores and the men are whoremongers. Right? It's because spiritually we are whores. We all stepped out on the Most High. Right? For I know that because of these two things, right? Because of what? Money and liquor and lust. He says, for I know that because of these two things shall my family fall into wickedness. For even wise men among my sons shall they mar, and shall cause the kingdom of Judah to be diminished, which Yahuwah gave me because of my obedience to my father. So this is going to happen even among the wise men. For even wise men among my sons shall they mar. That liquor, that money. All right, it says, for I never caused grief to Jacob my father, for all things whatsoever he commanded I did. And Isaac, the father of my father, blessed me to be the king in Israel. And Jacob further blessed me in like manner. And I know that from me shall the kingdom be established. Right? Understand what we're reading, y'all. This is prophetic. This is somewhat of a declaration from our forefather. All right? Prophecy, prophetic declaration from our forefather, what would take place. What he experienced, what he did, what he saw, translated into our history. And that's what we're seeing today. This is how you deal with the issue of so-called black people. You put it in perspective. Most people don't know the scriptures deal with this kind of stuff, and that's because of religion. But anybody whose heart is open and they see this, they should feel comforted, because if this is in the scripture, then you know it's a good end to come. Because we see this stuff happening now. I've been around it all my life. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about this. All right? When it comes to lust, fornication, all that, I'm a man that's dealt with these things. And so I'm passionate about it because I understand that this is a key thing that's destroying legacy, is destroying families, is destroying individuals. And this is an issue that's so deeply, it's like, you know how the ingredients is so blended in and baked in. It's how it is with us. That's why the Bible tells us our sin is written with an engraving tool. It's engraved in our hearts. You far-fetched to come across anybody who can't get past their lusts. It's a strong issue. It says, he know that from him the kingdom gonna be established. It says, and I know what evils ye will do in the last days. He said, I know what evils you're gonna do in the last days. Beware therefore, my children, of fornication and the love of money, and hearken to Judah your father. I told you it's a spirit behind his money. No matter how good your intentions are, it seems like it's something that comes with this money. Once you receive so much of it, that just automatically puts you in a place, whether you ask for it or not. You know, look at those inscriptions on those dollar bills and on those coins. All those inscriptions represent people who ruled over our people with rigor and with harshness. See what I mean? And on top of that, we have to spend our sweat equity still earning those slave masters, because without those slave masters, we can't pay our mortgage, can't pay our rent, can't pay for your food, can't pay for your lights, your phones, your insurance, can't go on a vacation, can't wear them Louis Vuitton and them Versace shades that you like wearing because you need them slave masters. And the same thing we had to do for the masters back then is the same thing we have to do now to appease them, to get more of them. Say, for these things withdraw you from the law of Elohim and blind the inclination of the soul and teach arrogance and suffer not a man to have compassion upon his neighbor. How many people now you see talking about getting to the bag and getting money, right? And it's they just have a heart so hard against their own people. Some of our people so about getting to the bag to where they can't even acknowledge the true plight of our people here. Now, if you mention anything that's been done to our people, you make it an excuse because now you can get to the bag. They made it so easy to make money online and for people to sit up and run their mouth online and fleece the people, get money constantly. And there's no compassion for our people. Some of these people have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and to sit up and spit in our people's face and they'll support them still, making light of our plight. So we're living out the curses of the Most High. Only He can turn this curse. And when He does, we will remember our sin and groan in anguish for what we exactly, because this is the process. The reason we're not groaning now and feeling bad now is because we haven't fully repented. That's when we'll understand. It's like, okay, you ever been doing something and not really realizing what you was doing until later on somebody revealed it to you or show, hey man, this is what you're really doing. See? It's like I got a place, when I go walk my dog, right? Prime example. It's this store right up the road, this corner store right up the road. And when I walk my dog, I walk him through this parking lot where the store is, and we just continue up the road. Well, by the store, it's this little ditch. This little it's like a little ditch, and then it's some grass right there. It's like a little spot where cars park. A while ago, a sewer pipe bust in that ditch. That whole ditch was flooded with sewer water, right? After that, maybe like a week or so, a couple of weeks later after that, I'm walking my dog through there. And, you know, of course, it's been dried up and everything by then. I see these two Hispanic dudes. I guess they do landscaping. One dude, he laying back, got his hat on the ground, and he laid back in the same spot where the sewer water was. It's been dried up. He just laid back under the tree, just, you know, taking a break, just looking like he enjoying himself. And I'm walking by just looking at this dude like, damn. Little do he know, that's the magnitude of our sin. You see what I'm saying? Anybody with some sense, if you was to go, now I didn't tell him he didn't speak English or nothing, but if you was to go to anybody and be like, hey man, there's a sewer that busted right here a week ago, right? A sewer pipe busted right here and flooded all this up about a week ago. How fast you think they're gonna hop up from right there? Because they realize, man, this is not what I thought it was. I thought I was just chilling right under the tree in some grass. Nah, nigga, you laying on top of doo-doo and pee. That's the magnitude of our sin. When we realize it. And that's what happened to our forefathers when he showed them the fullness of what they was really doing. As men, we don't understand the full magnitude of going up in as many women as we can possibly go into. We don't realize what's happening. Biologically, spiritually, physically. We don't realize the filth that we generate from doing that. It's similar to that sewer pipe. How many of y'all would, upon hearing that, if you land in the grass, I'm so conscious, I don't even like walking through the grass, y'all. That's how I am. I'm sadiddy like that. Most times, especially if I know I'm around a place where it's a bunch of dogs, I'm not finna walk in that grass. I'm not finna let my kids play in that grass. That's just how I am. If I know, imagine what we don't know. See what I'm saying? He said, for these things withdraw you from the law of Elohim and blind the inclination of the soul and teach arrogance and suffer not a man to have compassion upon his neighbor. That's what the spirit of drunkenness, the love of money do. You love money so much you won't even have compassion on your neighbor. Right? It said they rob his soul of all goodness and oppress him with toils and trouble and drive away sleep from him and devour his flesh. It ages you. The love of money, drunkenness, it ages you. Right? Oppress him with toils and troubles and drive away sleep from him. Right? I mean, people you hear say, man, I ain't got time to sleep. Sleep is for the weak. Sleep is the cousin of death and all this kind of stuff because you got to get the money. It says, and he hindered the sacrifices of Elohim, and he remembered not the blessings of Elohim. He hearkened not to a prophet when he speaketh, and resented the words of godliness. Now, I can admit, y'all, at one point I reached this, not the point where I wasn't hearing the prophets or anything like that, or a point where I got so stressed behind worrying about money. I got stressed to a point at one point behind that. Not able to sleep, not able to rest good, you know, not able to eat properly. You know, all that stuff affects you, man. Your body starts changing, your mind starts changing. It's designed that way. But it says when you love drunkenness and you love money, it says he is a slave to two contrary passions, right? Drunkenness and money are two contrary passions. They go against each other. But now here you have a man who's tied up with the spirit of both, two contrary passions. You got two passions that's working against each other. So you drink too much, it's going to bring you down, right? Drinking and all that don't give you energy, that brings you down. But see, you need to be up to get that money. In order for you to love that money and get that money, you can't sleep. You got to be up. You see what I'm saying? Two contrary passions that work together against you. Two enemies. You know how two enemies, they come together for one common goal. Right? That's what liquor and money and all that is. Two contrary passions that work together to bring you down. It says, my children, the love of money leadeth to idolatry. Because when led astray through money, men name as gods those who are not gods, and it causeth him who had it to fall into madness. Look at all these fake pastors and everything that people pay homage to, get their money to. That's idolatry. You following after their words, not following after the words of the Most High. So now they got you in church doing all kind of weird stuff. Coming down to the aisle and laying on the floor and doing all kind of weird stuff. Punching the pastors in service and all that. Got y'all drinking the holy seed and all this kind of stuff. Idolatry. It says it caused him to fall into madness. I mean, people falling out in church because they think the Most High gonna get them a 100-fold return on their offering that they put in church. That's why I said it's madness. All right, if you're gonna give this man money and expect a 100-fold return, you might as well just call that an investment. That will be a return on your investment. All right. You giving money to a nonprofit organization with no return, and you thinking that the Most High gonna give you a 100-fold return on that. And when it don't happen, like this one, I think I got this video. My wife sent it. This one guy saying that he don't, he want his money back. He don't want to go to this heaven no more. Dude been giving all his money. He said, "Oh, I don't want to go to this heaven no more." It says, for the sake of money, I lost my children, and had not my repentance and humiliation and prayers of my father been accepted, I should have died childless. All right. But the Elohim, my fathers, had mercy on me because I did it in ignorance. And the prince of deceit blinded me, and I was ignorant as a man and as flesh, being corrupted through sin. And I learned my own wickedness while thinking myself invincible. It's another spirit within a lot of men in Judah, this mindset, thinking they're invincible. All right. Now, one thing I'm not going to doubt or go against is that the Most High Spirit is with a lot of the men in Judah. That's a promise. It's just that we don't know how to put that in perspective. We don't understand it. You know, Judah himself, and the reason I say that is because if you read the Testament of Judah, right, it tells you that Jacob was comforted by Judah because, you know, they used to fight a lot. Jacob's sons, they used to fight a lot. But the Most High showed Jacob that an angel of might followed Judah everywhere he went. So if that happened, just think about that, y'all. When Judah was saying he gave up everything, his staff, his girdle, which is his strength, all these things are symbolic. The spirit of might followed Judah around everywhere that he went. So that's symbolic of all of the men of Judah. That's in our bloodline. So that strength, that spirit of might, it's a tangible thing that follows our bloodline. This is why people wonder why we so resilient in spite of what we've been through. In spite of whatever negativity they have to say about us as men, who are the most mimicked and copied and studied. You see what I'm saying? It's a reason for that. It says, know therefore, my children, that two spirits wait upon man, the spirit of truth and the spirit of deceit. And in the midst of the spirit of understanding of the mind, to which it belongeth to turn whithersoever it will. So we're stuck between the spirit of truth and deceit, and your mind is left to determine which way to go. That's why the Bible say, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. All right. It says, and the works of truth and the works of deceit are written upon the hearts of men, and each one of them Yahweh will know it. If you read the scrolls, it tells you that from the beginning there was lots cast for the souls of men to determine who would be with the Most High and who wouldn't, right? Or to determine where the souls of men would end up. But the Most High set Judah for himself, or Israel for himself, from the beginning. This is why when you read these scriptures about, you know, before the creation, everything was laid out, things that reference that. That's what it's talking about. All right. It says, the works of truth and the works of deceit are written upon the hearts of men. Each one of them, Yahweh will know it. And there is no time in which the works of men can be hid. For on the heart itself have they been written down before Yahweh. Now, you got to really think about that too. When you read Reuben, right, it says, he said that the angel revealed to him concerning women that in their hearts they plot against men. So this ain't it's not an open thing, a blatant thing, right? It's telling you what they doing in their heart. Just like when you read Genesis, when it says Esau said in his heart that when Isaac died, he was gonna kill his brother. Only the Most High can tell you what somebody is thinking in their heart. All right. In their hearts, they plot against men. That means that their ultimate goal is to bring a man down. Ultimately, in their heart, that's what they're thinking about. So don't let no woman tell you she ain't worried about no man. Because in their heart, it says different. It says, "And the spirit of truth testified all things and accuseth all things. And the sinner is burnt up by his own heart and cannot raise his face to the judge." That's all you got to do with the truth. Just speak it and let people deal with it however they want to deal with it. See, the truth is like the water. You just let the water loose. It's going to find places to penetrate and level out. That's how the truth is. You can't stop it. You can't stop it from doing what it's going to do. He said, "And now, my children, I command you, love Levi, that ye may abide, and exalt not yourselves against him, that ye be utterly destroyed. For to me, Yahweh gave the kingdom, and to him the priesthood, and he set the kingdom beneath the priesthood." All right. To him, he gave the priesthood, and he set the kingdom beneath the priesthood. Right? Who do the priests represent? Right? When you look at all the services they did, what did the priesthood represent? It says, "To me, he gave the things upon earth, and to him the things in the heavens. As the heaven is higher than the earth, so is the priesthood of Elohim higher than the earthly kingdom, unless it falleth away through sin from Yahuwah and is dominated by the earthly kingdom." All right. "For the angel of Yahweh said unto me, Yahweh chose him rather than thee, to draw near to him and to eat of his table, and to offer him the first fruits of the choice things of the sons of Israel. But thou shalt be king of Jacob." So I pretty much just stop it there. The rest of it is just concluding what would happen in the end time. Let me see something. It talks about more about how we would be in the last days, how the sins would increase in the last days, and how the Messiah would come in the last days and bring us back. And it even uses the term Gentiles, to reverence the other lost tribes. You know what I mean? But this is a good read. It's a testament of Judah. I recommend this to any of our brothers, man. Just read through this. The beginning of this goes more in depth about his history, his youth leading up to when he got with Tamar, when he married the Canaanite woman. She died. He ended up cursing her and she died. Then that's when the situation with Tamar happened. After that, it goes into detail about the Amorites and the who was that? You know how in Genesis 15, when it says the iniquity of the Amorites is not full, it breaks that down. And a lot of these reads are really connected with the scripture, so it fills in voids. You know what I mean? I've been saying it for a while. You know, I recommend it, especially in these times. You know, go on and get it in, man, with all the naysaying, the doubt. You know, go ahead and educate yourself. One thing I'm sure of is that a lot of questions people have, even those who diligent about the scripture, a lot of questions you may have will be answered by going through some of these reads. You know what I mean? And it'll be refreshing. It'll make you feel good about going to these records more. You know, it'll sharpen your sword more. You understand? But in any case, I wanted to deal with this because we living in a time now where a lot of people starting to wake up. You know, life is not cracking like it used to be for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Things are not upbeat. Things are not as vibrant. You know what I mean? Things are kind of slowing down and mellowing out now. So it gives us a chance as a people to kind of fall back, re-examine some things, because a lot of what's happening is really, a lot of stuff really has, I'm not going to say it has nothing to do with us. It's all about us. But in a direct sense, these are not our issues. More of the complaints now you hear from outside is us not helping, us not speaking up for other people, us not doing this, us not doing that. Whereas really we just chilling. You know, we still dealing with our problems, but as a whole, we're seeing that, hey man, we're not finna stand in the gap for y'all no more. We're not stepping up to the forefront for other people no more who are not our people, because we understand now, you know, that when we do that, we get nothing for it but the bloodshed. We get the blows, we get the punches, we get the debts. We suffer all everything while everybody else benefit. Y'all want to use us to stand up in the gap and speak out. Why does everybody want to use us to cry out? See, these same people want to disrupt and want to have stuff to say when we cry out about things that pertain to us. But they want to use our energy to cry out for them. And we starting to see that now. And little by little, I keep saying, man, and this is my hope, I keep seeing it, you know. Even when, you know, things get worse and worse, I'm still seeing it. I'm still seeing this awakening, because you gotta realize then the enemy ain't gonna let up easy. It's not gonna be an easy fight, because to lose us means they lose complete control. And I already told y'all what they act like. Y'all know how it is with them. So little by little, man, I'm seeing it. It's just this one thing, you know, the issue with the black men, the black women. I'm telling y'all, that's gonna be the blow. That's gonna be a major blow to our enemy. Once black men and black women come together and start loving each other. It ain't gotta be about trying to be in a relationship with everybody you see. It's just about simply when I go out somewhere and I see another brother, or I see a sister, I see the Most High in them. I see my family. I see my auntie, I see my sister, my brother, my cousin. You see what I'm saying? We got to be able to get to that point first before we even worry about relationships and all that. Let's start liking each other. You know what I'm saying? When a black woman see a black man, she shouldn't be disgusted or already have this preconceived notion in her mind. Same thing with the black men. We shouldn't have that. It's a reality that we face, but it shouldn't be that way. Let's acknowledge it. You understand what I'm saying? That's just something I want to see. Let me find this real quick, then I'm going to close out. I appreciate y'all, man. Really do. Go ahead and like if y'all haven't like button, all that good stuff. I really do appreciate it. Let me see. Last place. Give me a second. Yeah, this is going to have to be the last place because I feel it coming on now. I feel the tap out coming on. Let me see. Jubilees. Let me see. Oh, y'all can't see that yet. Let me try to find this. Let me try to find this one passage real quick. Oh, wow, hold on. Abraham, Isaac, Joseph. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. This is what I want to end with. And I talked about this in the beginning of the video, how ironic this is because this is when Israel was in Egypt the first time during the time of Joseph. And here we are today, symbolically in Egypt again. Right. And the scriptures talk about us being reborn as a nation and everything like that. Whereas the first time Israel became a nation in Egypt, the first time. All right. Watch this. It says, and it came to pass that after Jacob died, the children of Israel multiplied in the land of Egypt, and they became a great nation, and they were of one accord in heart. We always talk about being on one accord. What does that mean? This says they were one accord in heart. What does it mean to be one accord in heart? It's going to explain it. It says that so that brother loved brother, and every man helped his brother. And they increased abundantly and multiplied exceedingly, 10 weeks of years, all the days of the life of Joseph. It's amazing how The scriptures really be giving us formulas and answers, and we read right past it, right? We always read in the scripture being on one accord, right? What does it mean to be on one accord? Most people will say, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. True that. However, how can you do that if you're not one accord in heart? Because in order for us to keep the commandments, remember how the scriptures talk about we're going to be circumcised in our hearts. Then we can serve the Most High. This is what we're missing, y'all. What happens when we're one accord in heart? It says brother loves brother and every man helps his brother. We look out for one another, in other words. Because we're one accord in heart. And what happens as a result of that? It says they increase. We missing the formula. My people suffer for a lack of knowledge because they reject knowledge. Knowledge bypasses us. If we reading with the right mindset, we should see these things. Shouldn't be a wonder or a big, movement or what should we do? What should we be doing? It's right here. We got to build our money up. We got to do this. How much hard work is it going to take to do that? And who can we trust with the money? We need resources. We need this, and that. What did Mashiach say? It said, take no thought for that stuff. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness. What does that start with? It starts with being circumcised in your heart. Once we circumcise in our hearts, then we can truly love our brothers and our sisters. Then we can really live life. That's when the living starts. See, we so bunched in, law, statutes, and commandments. The law, statutes, and commandments is our culture and our heritage. We're supposed to be living it. That's how it's supposed to be. We're not living life. We don't know what it's like to live, to be free. We don't even know what a day-to-day is like in our own heritage. Our heritage has a prerequisite of humility, love, and obedience to the Most High. It's called like the basic fundamentals. If we can't get back to that, then we can't get back to who we are. We can't get back to our heritage. Say like every other ethnicity looks out for their own people and helps them advance. They gatekeep and hire their own people first in every aspect of life. But what we say? We say we can't hire niggas. And in some cases it's true. Trust me, man, I work around all sorts of types of people, man. And one of the main issues I have is issue with our own people. Not coming to work. Coming in late. It's always an excuse. When you're there, you want to complain about this, you want to complain about that. I don't know, man. That's why I say my hope is in the word of the Most High. Because if it was left to me and my own understanding, I don't even want to say what I would think. That's why I'm glad for the scriptures. I put all my hope in that. Trust me. All my hope in what's written. Because if I have to be honest, you know what I'm saying? In some aspects, it's hard to see. You have to really believe what's written. Because in a lot of cases, it's hard to see. That's why I say, man, I believe what's written. I see the awakening spreading. You know, people are doing whatever they do, whether they accept it or reject it. It's spreading. You know, and I'm telling you, that's where I'm hanging my hat. That's where I'm hanging it. But this is what I want to close with, man. This is, you know, let me read this last part. It said, and there was no Satan nor any evil all the days of the life of Joseph, which he lived after his father Jacob. For all the Egyptians honored the children of Israel all the days of the life of Joseph. It said there was no Satan nor any evil all the days of the life of Joseph. So we need righteous leadership. That's what Joseph was. He was a righteous leader. He was a king in his day. He was elevated to be king and ruler. And we know that Mashiach is returning to rule in Zion. I always believed that Joseph was like a symbol of Mashiach in a way, in a lot of different ways. You know, and I'll talk about that in another video. But Joseph endured a lot. He suffered at the hands of his own people. Right? He endured being locked down in prison. And when he rose up out of prison, he was risen to a high stand, a high position, the highest position in the kingdom. Once he rose up from the depths, he was in the lowest part of the kingdom, and he rose up to the depths, never to return back again. He passed on. When he died at the top as a king and as a ruler. But everything in his life that he went through, in my view, is symbolic of Mashiach in a lot of ways. I like to cover that in another video. But the downfall of the men of Judah: lust, drunkenness, and the love for money. We see these things happening today. I would say also too, even with that, you hear a lot of black men speaking of finances in a different light. You know, it's a lot of different things happening in terms of the awakening. You know, and little by little, you know, we're going to start seeing our people get better, start coming together. And once we deal with this issue between black men and black women, that's when it's really going to ramp up. That's when we're really going to see who our enemies really are. All right. It's easy right now for everybody to fall back and look at black people and, oh, y'all such messed up, y'all don't stick together, y'all don't do this, y'all don't do that. When we start halfway doing that, watch the reaction of these nations. They're not going to like it. I would even go as far to say that's when it's going to start getting violent against our people, because that's when it was violent for our people the first time. As much as they want to say, black people are violent, black people are this, black people are that. When you look back in those days when our people was being attacked, them wasn't violent people that they were attacking. They was attacking children. See, they was attacking men walking down the street, innocent pregnant women. But they want to tell you that we're violent and that justifies what they do. It's like, nah, y'all weren't killing violent people back in the day. Y'all weren't sicking dogs on violent people. Now it's a violence issue. Nah, we're not gonna do it like that. But in any case, y'all, I'm gonna get on out of here. If y'all haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and like the video. Subscribe to the channel. T.I.R. Talk Show Fellowship, as well as Resurrecting the Truth. Thank y'all in advance for that. Go ahead and check out trueebry.com if you haven't already. I want to thank y'all in advance for that as well. And for those of you brothers and sisters who enjoy music and everything, we got some stuff coming up, most high willing, in the future that we're working on. I'm working on some instrumentals and thinking about making a small compilation out of that. So I'll keep y'all posted on that as well. What else was I going to say? I forgot what else I was going to say. However, I do want to give a shout out to the brothers, Brother Kadar, Brother Josiah, Brother Yash, Son Judah, Sons Elohim, Run That Back, Brother D, Brother T, you know what I'm saying, Brother Yannicote. The shout out to all y'all. And make sure the brothers, man, y'all keep this video next to you. Share it with other brothers that may be dealing with this issue, and encourage them. You know what I mean? Help them out. And that's about it, man. I want to thank y'all once again for your time. All praise to the Most High. Shalom and blessings. And I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.